Now I am moving forward towards the textual reference. As I told beginning of this session that Delhi Sultans were following theocratic rule to rule or govern their territory. And that's why the Delhi Sultans built several mosques in cities all over the subcontinent. Because through this kind of activities, they can claim to be the protectors of Islam and Muslim. As you know, beforehand, whenever from Middle East, any of the Islamic traveler or the traders who visited India during the ancient time, beginning of the early medieval period, that time itself they were not the rulers. But when this Turkish ruler, they have started the foundation of dynasties in Indian subcontinent, their administrative policy must be very, very strong because they were very much new with this kind of scenario. The Indian people, they are also experiencing new type of theocratic ideologies like Islam. So that's why the Delhi Sultans demonstrated their claims to be protectors of Islam and Muslims, and the mosques were helping out to establish a shared belief system and a code of conduct, and that will create the community sense among all type of Muslims who are coming from a variety of backgrounds. You can see some of the pictures. These pictures are representing the architectural taste of Delhi Sultans, like Maut Ka Masjid, then Mosque of Jamali Kamali, and their architectural designs or the proficiency was excellent. And the same in that thing influenced a lot later on during the time of Mughal period. Now I am coming to the closer look, the case study, that administration and the consolidation under the Khaljis. Here, some Delhi Sultans followed a specific type of rule that is differing from one ruler to another ruler. As a whole, I already have discussed about the basic structure of administration during the time of Delhi Sultans. Special reference to Iltutmish. What he has done, instead of appointing aristocratic landed chieftains as governors, the Ali Sultan, especially Iltutmish, favored their special slaves, which are being purchased for military service, that is called as Bandagan. They were carefully trained to man some of the most important political offices in the kingdom, since they were totally dependent upon their master. They were very, very loyal. The Sultan could trust and rely upon them. Because when I have discussed about the timeline of Delhi Sultans, there we came to know that one ruler conspiring against another ruler, they are always ready to and taking that place. So you can refer Delhi Sultanate as a blood-shedded history. So there was an immense competition, and that's why nobles, other influential members of that Sultan's court, they were always having different lobbies, and according to their opinion, whenever it is needed, they are interfering about the matter and taking up the important role to settle down with one of the king or the ruler or sultan to be crowned on the throne. On the basis of that, Qutbuddin Aibak also appointed Iltutmish. He was very much reliable on him, but this Iltutmish, he actually overthrew the son of that Qutbuddin Aibak and captured the power. For that reason, the Khalji and the Tughlaqs also continued to use this Bandagan and also raised people of humble birth who were often their clients to high political positions. They were appointed as generals and governors. However, these also introduced an element of political instability. Yes, who were the landed chieftains or the powerful aristocrat families, they are not getting the option to be the part of the administration all the time, because here the trustworthy candidates are rare. Slave and clients were loyal to their masters and the patrons, but not their heirs. New sultans had their own servants. As a result, the accession of a new monarch often saw conflict on this particular ground. And that's why they replaced the previous Bandagan and appointed a new person on that place. And we can see the conflict between the old and the new nobility. The patronage of this humble people by the Delhi Sultans also shocked many elites, and the author of Persian Tariq criticized the Delhi Sultans for appointing the low and base born to high offices. So this Bandagan system was very effective, but as well as this Bandagan system was having a lot of flaws and discrimination. Sultans. Now I am coming to the next part, the important part. Earlier sultans, the Khalji and the Tughlaq monarch, appointed military commanders as governors of the territories of varying size. These lands were called Iqtas. I already referred about that, and their holder was called as Iqtadar or Mufti. Mufti, their duty was to lead military campaigns and maintain law and order in their Iqtas. In exchange for their military services, the Muftis collected the revenues of their assignment as salary. So it is pretty clear that how much Iqtas they are owning, on the basis of that they are getting their salaries. As much of revenue they can collect, and that can be submitted to the royal treasury. On the basis of that they are getting salaries. They also paid their soldiers from these revenues. Control over Muftis was most effective if their office was not inheritable and if they were assigned Iqtas for a short period of time before being shifted. This harsh condition of service were rigorously imposed during the time of Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Accountants were appointed by the state to check the amount of revenue collected by the Muftis, and then taken care by the Mufti collected one taxes prescribed by the state, and he kept the required number of soldiers. Like how much soldiers you are providing to the royal army or to the sultans, on the basis of that your Iqtar size and as well as salary as well as revenue is being considered. So here important questions are who are Muftis or who are called as Iqtadar, what is Iqta, what is the role of the Muftis, and how this Mufti or the Iqtadari system has been controlled by different Delhi sultans like Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. As the Delhi sultans brought the hinterland of the cities under their control, they forced the landed chieftains, the Samantas, aristocrats, and rich landlords to accept their authority. Under Alauddin Khilji, he has introduced the assessment and collection of land revenue under his own control. The rights of the local chieftains of levy taxes were cancelled, and they were also forced to pay taxes. The sultans, administrators, measured the land and kept careful accounts. Some of old chieftains and landlords served the sultanate as revenue collectors and assessors. There are three types of taxes during the time of Alauddin Khilji. Those are cultivation tax. On the basis of the cultivation, tax are being collected about 50% of the peasants' produce. That is called kharaj. Second one is the taxes on cattle, and the third one is on houses. So from here also you are getting another question. Name the types of taxes collected during the time of Alauddin Khilji. Here another short question can be added. What is kharaj? 1 mark question. Now coming to the next para, you can see it. It is important to remember that the large parts of the subcontinent remains outside the control of Delhi, because it was difficult to control distant provinces like Bengal from Delhi, and soon after annexing southern India, the entire region became independent, because it is for the short time and the sultans are not living over there for a long time. After annexation of that land, they are returning back to Delhi. That time, once again, these regional kingdoms declared their freedom. So that was a great problem faced by the Delhi sultans. Even in the Gangetic plain, there were forested areas that sultanate forces could not penetrate. Local chieftains established their rule in these regions. Sometimes rulers like Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq could force their control in these places, but it is for a very short duration. Now, here one box has given in your book. That is Ibn Battuta, a 14th century traveler from Morocco, Africa, which is situated in Africa, explained the chieftain sometimes in this way. Read this portion carefully. You will get the idea which way the chieftains and their fortifications contributed, and as well as putting adverse situation for the Delhi sultans. The Mongol under Genghis Khan invaded northeast Iran in 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after. Mongol attacks on the Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khilji and the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. But both of them dealt with the problem in a different way. Alauddin Khilji was defensive, whereas Muhammad bin Tughlaq was very, very attacking. Though Alauddin Khilji was able to retain and resolve the problem, he was capable to stop that invaders. But Alauddin Khilji, the way he has adopted the measures to build fortified areas, fort, making more garrison town, but at the same time, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a bit hostile. He was very much interested to attack the Mongols in spite of having less amount of army, and the inadequate plan to face them, and that's why he was defeated. These forced these two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge. Here we can go through the comparative study of these two rulers, their policies, their success and as well as failures, which is given in your textbook also through a table. We will try to explore it after that. But one point is clear, that Mongol invasion was very frequent towards Delhi, because India was a very wealthiest and the prosperous country, and that's why from the ancient time itself it was a targeted area for all invaders, and Mongols are also one of them. Now see the case study of these two rulers. First I am showing you Alauddin Khilji. You can see that through this table, that Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, their administrative measures. Through this table, you will come to know that the negative and the positive features of their policies. This particular point, that page, I am giving you as a case study, from where you need to find out some of the answers of given questions. End of this slide, I am going to give that question along with this that picture, and that will be your assignment. I am having trust that you are able to find out the answer by yourself. Giving in brief, like Alauddin, Delhi was attacked twice during the time of Alauddin Khilji, that is 1299 and 1300 during that time, and 1302 to 1303. As a defensive measure, Alauddin Khilji raised a large standing army. Next, Alauddin constructed a new garrison town named Siri for his soldiers. The soldiers had to be fed. This was done through the produce collected as tax from lands between the Ganga and Yamuna. Tax was fixed at 50% of the peasant yell, that is called kharaj. The soldiers had to be paid by salaries in cash rather than iktas. The soldiers would buy their supplies from the merchants in Delhi, and it was thus feared that the merchants would raise their prices. Corruption can be there. To stop this, Alauddin Khilji controlled the price of goods in Delhi. That means rationing system has started by him. Prices were carefully surveyed by officers. Special officers are being appointed. I already referred about that structure. And merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates were punished. And finally, Alauddin's administrative measures were quite successful, and chronicles praised his reign for its cheap prices and efficient supplies of goods in the market. He successfully withstood the threat of Mongol invasions. Now I am coming to the measures or the administrative policies adopted by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he was also called by the scholars as the wisest fool of Delhi Sultanate. Wisest fool of Delhi Sultanate, because Muhammad bin Tughlaq personally, he was very learned person. He knew more than 6 languages, and he actually wants to do something for the development of his subjects. But all the policies which he have adopted, those were not successful yet. Why? We will discuss about this right now. The Sultanate was attacked in the early years of Muhammad bin Tughlaq's reign, and the Mongol army was defeated. Muhammad Tughlaq was confident about the strength of his army and his resources to plan an attack on Transaxonia He therefore raised a large standing army. So, to contrast, you can see the reason for what Alauddin Khilji raised a large army, the same point was applicable for Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But the difference was one is for defense and another one is for attack. Next, rather than constructing a new garrison town, the oldest of the 4 cities of Delhi, that is Delhi-e-Khuna, was emptied of its residents and the soldiers garrisoned there. The residents of old city were sent to the new capital of Daulatabad in south. Why that Muhammad bin Tughlaq has decided for this? Because it was very tough to control the southern portion which has been conquered by them and taking care of well governance from Delhi. So that he decided to shift his entire team to Daulatabad. He constructed a new capital over there, and that's why he shifted entire his team to that place. But due to the long that journey, the entire things which set up, when they are moving, most of the soldiers, most of the people, they exhausted. When they reached over there, their energy, their spontaneity, everything was lost. And after a few time, as you know, the climatic that situation in Delhi and the climatic condition of Daulatabad is totally different. The most of the people were not able to adapt with that system. So that seeing all these problems, Muhammad bin Tughlaq once again withdrawn his decision, and once again he shifted entire of his team from Daulatabad to Delhi, and that has created a lot of mess and pressure on the royal treasury. Next part, produce from the same area was collected as tax to feed their army, but to meet the expense of maintaining such a large number of soldiers, the Sultan levied additional taxes. That was detrimental for the administration of Delhi Sultans. These coincided with the famine in that area. Because the peasants were not ready to pay all this amount, the extra tax, because maybe the production is less due to some climatic reason. Rainfall was not adequate. That's why they are not able to produce more. But Sultan was not ready to listen on this thing, because he was needed more money for his treasury and to be paid those things as salary, in form of salary to the soldiers. So that this decision also reverted. Muhammad bin Tughlaq also paid his soldiers cash salaries, but instead of controlling prices, he used a token currency. Here is another difference. Somewhat like present day paper currency, but made out of cheap metal, not gold or silver. People in the 14th century did not trust these coins. They were very smart and they saved their gold and silver coins and paid all their taxes to the state with this token currency. This cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily, and it has done. And that's why the value of the currency introduced by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, it has reduced. And that was another failure of administrative decision taken by the sultans. So for that reason also the royal treasury faced a lot of problem. Muhammad bin Tughlaq's administrative measures were a failure. His campaigns into the Kashmir was a disaster. He then gave up his plans to invade Transsaxonia and disbanded his large army. Meanwhile, his administrative measures created complications. The shifting of people from Daulatabad was resented. The raising of taxes and famine in the Ganga Yamuna belt led to widespread rebellion. People were very furious, and finally, the token currency had to be recalled. That actually created very pressure on the royal treasury, and automatically it has affected the entire system of Delhi Sultans during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So through this comparative study of the administrative policies taken by Alauddin Khilji and the Muhammad bin Tughlaq is a very nice comparison to discuss about the positive and the negative impacts of administrative policies adopted by sultans. Now, from here you will be getting another important question, that is, what are the administrative measures taken by Alauddin Khilji? He will mention the main points. No need to write everything. No need to remember all the points. You need to remember only the key points. What are the basic informations I have provided, or you can see from the book. That only you need to write. And the same way, what are the administrative measures taken by Muhammad bin Tughlaq? That will be 4 to 5 points. Another question can be given from this comparative study, that is, do you think the administrative policies of Alauddin Khilji was a success? Once again, another question, do you think Muhammad bin Tughlaq has taken the administrative policies, those are successful enough? Justify your statement. So this kind of question can be given from this part. We are almost to the end of the chapter. Through the list Muhammad bin Tughlaq's failures, we sometimes forget that for the first time in the history of Sultanate, a Delhi Sultan planned a campaign to capture Mughal territory, and that is because of the policy adopted by, or the plan adopted by, Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Unlike Alauddin's defensive measures, Muhammad Tughlaq's measures were conceived as a part of military offensive against the Mughals. Now, what are the problems faced by the Delhi Sultans and what are the reasons for their decline? After the Tughlaqs, the Sayyid and Lodi dynasties ruled from Delhi and Agra until 1526. By then, Jaunpur, Bengal, Malwa, Gujarat, Rajasthan and the entire South India had independent rulers who established flourishing states and prosperous capitals. This was also the period which saw the emergence of new ruling groups like the Afghans and the Rajputs. Once again, Rajputs emerged. These states established in this period were small but powerful and extremely well administrated. During this time itself, Sher Shah Suri, an Afghan ruler or the noble under the Delhi Sultans, started his career as the manager of a small territory of his uncle in Bihar and eventually challenged and defeated the Mughal Emperor Humayun. Sher Shah captured Delhi and established his own dynasty. Although the Suri dynasty ruled for only 15 years, is another that ruler, those people, he is not from a Mongol background. Suri dynasty ruled for only 15 years. It introduced an administration that borrowed elements from Alauddin Khilji and made them more efficient. Sher Shah's administration became the model followed by the great Emperor Akbar later on when he consolidated the Mughal Empire. So, from here, from this chapter, we are getting the entire, more or less entire information about Delhi Sultanate. Now I am coming to the last part, that is the three orders, the peace of God, Knights and the Crusades. The same time when Indian subcontinent is having the history of Delhi Sultanate, that time what was going on in Europe, that part has mentioned. Though this is not the part of your syllabus, but still I will request you all to go through this part. If there is any problem, then the next video definitely I will explain little bit about this story. So until then, my textual explanation of this chapter is ended over here. We are going to start with Mughal Empire, not from the textual reference, but we will go with the exploration of Mughal Empire. Then we